Chelsea, Chelsea, Chelsea!
Joe Hart, you cheeky monkey, Jason Crowley. That's why we love you. This is the Chelsea FanCast. I'm Stanford Chidge, and we are back for what I like to call the meat and two veg bit of the show. Really, this is where I want to get into the old City game properly, but I know we had a nice little diversion with Wass's Waitings, Wass, which I did enjoy. I think that's something that we could continue with, because it certainly wound...
We might continue it in about 20 minutes
We might, actually, for the Schalke game. That's a good point, but it certainly wound Pablo up, which is never a bad thing. I do like that.
Well, as I said, I made the mistake of sending them to him after the game, as I usually do.
Yeah.
Set myself right up there.
I know. You are spreadsheet geeks. I nearly came out with the word that we used to call it. Anyway, look, the first thing I really want to talk about in the serious bit of the show is Torres. The boy done good. It's the second game he's done good in a row as well. But I thought Torres' work rate, his aggression, his hunger, his touch, absolutely splendid. I was going to say, the question I really want to ask is what has turned it around. I mean, is it Jose? But before we get into that, I've got to relay a good old story. I interviewed Ron Atkinson many years ago. And I also interviewed some of the West Brom players that played with him in the 70s. And they were obviously talking about Ron as a manager. And Ali Brown and Len Cantello both said in the interview, separate interviews, they said, the funny thing is, when we were running out of the tunnel, we were just about to go on the pitch, Ron would be waiting for us right at the end of the tunnel before we went on. And just before we went on, he'd smack us really hard in the stomach, catch us completely unawares, really punch us hard. And I said, well, why do you think he did that? And they said, I don't know, but it worked. And I'm just wondering, we said on the show,
Isn't
didn't
that
we?
how Harry Houdini died?
Thank you, Ross. That is the surreal moment of the season. I have no idea. But seriously, I'm just wondering, we said this on the show years ago, didn't we? We said that if you make Torres angry, he will play well. So maybe Mourinho's like smacking him in the guts just before he runs onto the pitch. What do you reckon?
I think it was really helpful yesterday that he was up against a defender that he knew he had the beating of. I think that made a massive difference.
Clichy.
Di Matteo.
Well, any of them, really.
Yeah.
Di Matteo was rubbish, wasn't it?
Yeah, if you look at the way that he used to take Vidic apart, because in his mind they both knew that Torres had the beating of him, and it was the same yesterday, so he wasn't scared to run, and because he wasn't scared to run, he was taking people on and beating them. So.
Interesting stuff. I've got a theory on this, and I think actually it's about the striker balance, and I think what Mourinho's done, I think he's analysed the situation, and he's thought, okay, if we need a big old lump up front who can play up there on his own, hold the ball up and win balls in the air, we play Bar. If we want to have somebody up front who you can play it into their feet and bring other people in and be a bit of a goal poacher, we play Eto'o. If you want to play somebody who can play on the counter-attack on the last shoulder of the defender, or the defender of the last... Hang on, the last defender's shoulder, if I get my teeth in, and play on the counter-attack, that's when you play Torres. And I think he's figured that out, and that's what he's doing. What do you reckon?
I completely agree with that. I think Eto'o can do that last role as well.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
It was interesting that in his press conference yesterday he spoke about Torres' physicality and Torres effectively doing what you said that Bar's there for. I don't think Bar's going to get a look in, is he? Really?
He certainly looks fitter, doesn't he, Torres? Well, what do you think, though, Lowell? Do you think... why... what has turned it around? Because something has clearly changed, I think.
He just looks up for it. He just looks up for the fight. I don't know... I know Mourinho played it down a bit and said, it's all Torres and his work rate, but he's had a word in his ear and said, do you know what I mean? You fight for me and I'll fight for you, sort of thing. Because he's just playing, ever since that Spurs game, he's been fantastic. I
do sense a bit of the Jose Mourinho magical man management, or he is punching him in the guts or the face before he goes on. I kind of wish it was the latter, but I think it's probably the former. Benches, what do they reckon, Chad? Have they got an opinion on it? Is it Jose?
Yeah.
Has Jose done what Rafa, Di Matteo, AVB and even Carlo couldn't do?
Yeah, Carly says it's Mourinho. Paul Crowder said it's the JM factor. CFC Inc. agrees with you and said that in TV terms, Jose slapped him.
Who said that?
CFC Inc. said
I love him. He's my favourite person this week so far.
And also, Charlie says that Jose's the best man manager in the game, and he's gone and fixed him.
Jose has fixed it.
I think it's a bit too soon to say he's been fixed.
Really? Well, I tell you what, because I do.
I think I might take a bit of credit here, seeing as I coated him off on the last show. and he's kind of proved me wrong. He's definitely played really well, but 2.5 years of not playing so great, followed by a handful of games where he's been. I mean,
You're a hard man, Ross.
Those are definitely the 2 best performances he's had in a Chelsea shirt.
You're a very hard man, Ross, but you're not quite as hard as I am.
But we want to see where it goes.
I don't mean that in any other sense.
I didn't take it that way.
But you see, the thing is, I remember on a show previously a while ago when Torres was probably at his worst, we did compare him to Simple Jack, didn't we? From Tropic Thunder. I actually now think, I revealed this to Lowell in the pub afterwards.
Yeah.
I think actually Torres is now more Simple Jack meets the Water Boy. I think we've got a still of this. There we go. And you're probably wondering out there, you probably think I'm being really, really cruel, but I'm not actually, because actually he does bear a bit of a resemblance to Simple Jack. But I think his performances are now more Water Boy. If we remove the still for a second, I'll show you why. I can actually demonstrate this for you. If you ever watched the film The Water Boy with Adam Sandler, when basically they give him the ball and he would run through a brick wall for you and he scores. And he's a legend, And basically he kind of runs a bit like this. It's kind of like, a bit like Ian Curtis from Joy Division dancing, And Torres kind of runs like this. And it's a bit like the Water Boy. And so I'm actually being quite kind. I'm actually not really taking the mick out of him here.
He's
I'm
a bit
actually
like
saying
Captain
it's good.
Insano.
Who, what?
You obviously haven't watched The Water Boy then.
Well, I have, but I don't like to sit there and write notes and create a spreadsheet like you do about who did what, who said
you
this.
think about what happens when you put the 2 of them together, and you basically get Forrest Gump, don't you?
And he was pretty good at sport.
Okay, well that's good. That is all I've got to say about that.
Ross has got to do his
Oh,
Water
you've
Boy
got an
impression.
impression of Water Boy, Ross. Well done, Lol. Thank you. And Ross,
Before he makes a tackle, he goes... like that.
can we have that one more time? That's great. So do you think Torres does that before he gets the ball? You can actually see his little face. Maybe he's kind of going...
When he gets a chance, that sort of flashes between his
Yeah, you
swings
reckon?
arms. Yeah.
I think that may be true. I think we might have actually discovered something of great importance to Chelsea here, as we often do. Now, other than Torres being brilliant, which is great, and I do love to see it. I mean, I love to see... nothing pleases me more than seeing this guy, play well, because it's been awful to watch his mental disintegration for the last 2 years, so I'm really happy for him, yeah? We all are?
Of course you are. He's winning
Definitely.
games.
All right, now, the other thing is that I'm very happy about is this. We've got to talk about Jose Mourinho. I saw a brilliant tweet the other night, and basically it was saying how brilliant his unbelievable record is. There we go. Yeah, we'll see that later. I do like that one, but I don't want to talk about that now. What I want to talk about is this, his unbelievable record, which is some... there we go. Can we have a look at this? I just love this. No, that doesn't work at all, does it? But basically, I think he's won, 65 games? Greg, remind me in the gallery. Yeah, oh, there we go. Look, he's played 65 games at Stamford Bridge. He's won 51. He's drawn 14, and he has lost none. How about those apples? But I did like it kind of displayed as the www. It's just brilliant.
It looks like a mental web address.
It does look like a very... that is a mental web address. That is a very mental web address. But what an absolute legend this man is. I mean, unbelievable record. I kind of knew that he wasn't going to... Because a lot of people were saying this before the match. He hasn't lost at Stamford Bridge in a Premier League match. They were trying to hex it. But he really wanted to win that. And what I really loved about it was I thought his substitutions, yet again, for the 4th match in the row, were absolutely spot on, weren't they, mate? I thought Lamps was flagging. Mikel steadied the ship when he came on. William made an impact. But what I loved most of all, when he brought Eto'o on, I think it sent the message out to City, we're up for this, we want to win this game. We're not going to settle for 1-1.
I mean, I think he had the... I don't think the subs themselves won the game as they have done in the past, but they certainly did help to steady it and get it going. And Hazard had to come off at some point. It was either going to be Mata or Eto'o, and Mata wasn't really right for that situation, in my opinion. So, yeah.
I thought Schürrle, ran his socks off and was clearly tired. I was a bit worried about Lamps. I thought he looked off the pace all game, and I think that that early booking was because he was off the pace, and he could have got another one.
He should have had another one before that, shouldn't he?
I think it depends on the opposition with Lampard, as kind of with the Tottenham game. If the opposition have a quick, strong, technical midfield, that's the sort of time when he can get slightly overmatched. But apart from that, he's been excellent this season. But I do agree he was... As I gave him a 5, I do agree he wasn't.
Yeah,
quite at us.
I mean, look. Well, I'll get into this a bit later, perhaps, but I'm a bit worried about it. I think he still needs to adapt.
I mean, City are a class team, and they had an extra man in midfield, so it was a difficult task.
Hopefully, we'll get onto the midfield later because I do want to talk about that. But the other thing about Mourinho, Lowell, is just his passion. I mean, that was just his reactions during the game, particularly when Torres hit the bar. and then scored. But right at the end of the game when he jumped in with the fans, which really upset Pellegrini. Ha ha ha, do we care? But I mean, what do you think of that, mate? I mean, that's passion. That's what you want from a manager, isn't it?
Absolutely loved it. I mean, I didn't actually notice that until I watched the highlights afterwards.
Because
I was celebrating just as much.
Yeah, I know. We were all going absolutely mental. That was fantastic.
I think it was his kid in the crowd.
That's what he said, isn't it?
A couple of rows behind, he said he couldn't get to him. Somebody, obviously he got pounced on by every other Chelsea fan.
Somebody did a brilliant tweet today saying, well, there we go, Jose. Now you know what it's like. You've got your kid stuck in that season ticket seat. Now you'll know what it's like to try and get a blooming move. You've got no chance. Which I thought was quality, actually. I wish I could remember who it was on Twitter, but it did make me laugh at the time. Yeah, but well done to Jose. I think he's really showing us what he's all about. I mean, he's getting Torres to play. He's digging out really important results. He's making top changes, match winning substitutions in games. And he's like going out there saying, I'm one of you. My life right at this minute could not be better or happier. I am enjoying this season so much, and it's nearly all down to the fact we got that guy back.
Yeah.
It's making such a difference.
Completely agree. I'm just so glad he's back.
It's lovely. Do they share our view, Chad Meister, the people in Mixler? Andy's old mates, ex-mates actually, because of course he's more important than them now because he's been on the benches.
Yeah, there's a few interesting ones here. Zuri LNG said that Lamps looked frustrated in the game, and Eric Kivimaki said that he didn't look disappointed he came off and that Willian could have been more proactive. But Ryan from NC says that the subs have been spot on, unlike a certain manager who would have just subbed a right-back for a right-back.
Or Yossi Benayoun.
Or Yossi Benayoun.
Interesting
exactly
stuff.
What I said
Interesting stuff. Now, the other thing that I recall from this match, I mean, you know, last week on the show I was going on about how awful bald refs are and why they're all so bad. Well, lo and behold, my theory was utterly improved, absolutely conclusively, by a shoddy, pathetic, almost Man United display by Howard Webb yesterday. I mean, what a complete muppet this bloke is. I mean, the thing that annoyed me most was the fact that every time, we made a tackle or did a foul, he gave City everything, and every time they fouled us, he gave us nothing. That was my main gripe with him, Pablo.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't really see the point in whining about referees when we won the game. But he didn't have a good game, but he didn't have any major decisions to get wrong. So we'll move on to the next bald ref on Saturday.
Yeah, well, I'd like to know. I wish somebody know. I mean, it's something that Chad Meister might know. When's the next time we've got a bald ref, Chad? Do you know that?
Lee Mason.
I couldn't tell. I did see who the ref was for the Arsenal game tomorrow, but I can't
Apparently
remember.
Pablo says it's Lee Mason, mate.
No, it's not the guy.
It might be Lee Mason tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah.
It is on Saturday. I tweeted
for Saturday.
it earlier, yeah.
Yeah, so we got another bald ref on Saturday, so we're doomed. I mean, it's as simple as that.
Maybe it's part of the job
Jose's never won
description.
St James's.
Yeah,
Get
but
that ref the Barca game again anyway.
well, I don't think he'll ever. I mean, hopefully that man will never ref again. I mean, the other thing that was really annoying. I mean, that foul by Garcia on Torres. I mean, he basically elbowed him in the chops in a goal-scoring position. You could argue he should have been sent off. And the other thing, Zabaleta on Hazard. Now, okay, possibly not a pen, but if you're not going to give a pen, and bearing in mind Zabaleta would have got red carded for that.
No, he wouldn't.
Well, he would because he was already on a booking, Pablo.
Oh right, yeah, so he would.
So you know, that being the case, then why didn't he book Hazard for diving if
Because
it wasn't a pen?
It's not. That's not. Well, go ahead, Pablo.
I think we're going to say the same thing. So
It's because
Take it in turns. Say one word each. All night.
well, because football's it's a contact sport. If you get touched, it's not
I
necessarily.
thought that outlawed contact in football.
If you get touched, it's not necessarily a foul, and it doesn't mean that you're diving.
Well, fair enough. I mean, I think the other thing is that what really annoyed me most was that basically they got stuck into Hazard very early on in the game, gave him a good kicking, and he's not getting any protection from referees, is he, Laura?
No, he's not. He's so quick, and people can't handle the turn of pace when he gets the ball, and he can just get past people. They just bring him down, and I think he should be protected a bit more.
Not good. Now, the key to beating Man City, of course, as we've found out to our cost in recent years, is to try and win the battle in midfield, and if not win it, then actually at least try and match them in midfield. And I actually thought that was actually the key to the game. I really do think we did very, very well there. And I think actually Ramirez, I mean, what amazed me about Ramirez, Ross, is that he's up against Yaya Toure, who's a right old lump and a very fine quality player, it has to be said. And he did not once get bullied by him. In fact, there was a comical moment where Ramirez challenged him and Yaya Toure went down like a sack of spuds. And like Ramirez is half his size. But I mean, both Lamps and Ramirez, and then later on in the game, Mikel and Ramirez, I actually thought they did really well in the midfield against that lot.
Yeah, apart from the goal, but you know, City have got a lot of class there. I thought Ramirez was excellent. You know, City played basically possession high up the pitch, which left a bit of space, and every time he got the ball, it seemed like he was beating a man, sort of shooting between two players, and you know, generally playing really well and taking the fight to them.
I think the other thing, we alluded to this earlier in the show, is that the issue with Lampard at the moment, who is playing a lot of games, but you know, Mourinho went out publicly the other week and said that what he really needs to do is to try and become a Pirlo type of player, and I agree with that totally. But I think if he's going to do that, he really does need to adapt to that role better. And I'm thinking maybe he's not really, you know, capable of making the box-to-box type of runs that he was. But he is capable of playing more like a quarterback role in a deep-lying position. And I'm just wondering if he's struggling to adapt to that, Pablo. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was always going to be tough, like pace-wise, against Toure and Fernandinho. There were a couple of times in the second half where they just waltzed straight through the midfield on the counter. But I think he was helped a lot yesterday by the fact that Oscar was dropping back and really getting stuck in as well. So, I mean, I think that kind of papered over Lampard's cracks.
I think he did a
was
bit.
quite poor yesterday.
Well, yeah, and I'm just wondering, you know, he really needs to kind of, I think, grasp that role, because I think he could very much be a Pirlo type of player.
I think he's played pretty well in that position this season. I think he's put in a string of consistent, strong performances there.
Okay. Well, look, I mean, I'm not, you know, I absolutely adore Lamps, but I do think maybe, you know, if anybody can get Lamps to adapt to a slightly different role, it's going to be Jose Mourinho. So I'm very hopeful that will happen. Now, the other thing I want to talk about, you kind of mentioned this a minute ago. I was very circumspect about the fact I thought that he might choose Luiz and Terry, and in other words, he would release Luiz from the naughty step and pair him with Terry rather than playing Cahill and Terry, because it really worried me that Cahill and Terry, who are not blessed with you know, they're not the fastest of centre-backs, and they are a bit cumbersome, and they might get turned by Silva, Nasri and Aguero. And actually, I think the goal was a direct result of that. I mean, he slipped that ball into Cahill, who was caught flat-footed, not for the first time, and Bosch, somebody like Aguero, is going to bash that in. And I was quite surprised that, A, he didn't pick Luiz, and also, you know, well, I mean, basically, I think Luiz and Terry are the best partnership. But were you surprised? Or
yeah, I mean, exactly what you said. I share your sentiment that I was worried beforehand about Aguero's pace behind those two. But I think you've basically got a choice between Cahill's vulnerability to players running in behind him versus Luiz's mental errors, and I think Cahill put in a good performance against Schalke, and as such, Jose stuck with him.
And I think it kind of demonstrates that Luiz can't be trusted. He's quite clearly the better player, but Cahill's sort of more dependable when it's backs to the wall, which it could have been yesterday. So I think he probably made the right call, really.
And he is a physical presence, isn't he, Lowell? I mean, you know, I'm not knocking Gary Cahill because I absolutely love him, but I just think that if you are going to make Terry your first choice central defender, which I think Mourinho is, you know, always throughout his entire career, he's needed somebody fast who can anticipate to cover for him. Gallas, Carvalho, you know.
And let's not forget as well, yesterday was the first time that City hadn't started with two strikers, and their other strikers, either Negredo or Dzeko, are both big lumps who win the ball in the air. So
difficult call, but you know what? At the end of the day, you can't argue with Jose. He got it right. I mean, they slipped one goal, but we won 2-1, and that's actually all that really matters. Very quickly before we go to the break, benches, Chadder, anything to say?
A few people have just asked about the Lamps situation, about playing like Pirlo. Will he get another deal, another year's contract, to actually prove that he can play the Pirlo role?
I think that'll be up to Jose, mate. And I think if Jose wants him for another year and Frank wants to stay for another year, that's what he'll do.
Agree.
I think
agree with that, yeah.
Okay, brilliant stuff. I've enjoyed that. That was a good chat. Now, after the break, it's going to be even more fun because we are going to be talking about our weekly fannies.